Max Media, where we help others to grow and nurture their business. And no, I'm not going to do my robot dance for this intro, but I'm really excited for this episode. I have two incredible people that I sat down with talking about AI. I have Mike Tetreau, who is a very successful Vistage Chair working with dynamic leaders. I also have Ross Hartmann, who is the founder of Kingo AI. He is an AI expert consultant working with business leaders across the country. We all got together for a deep dive on AI, how businesses are using it, what Mike sees in his practice and how he looks at it. You're gonna love this episode. Let's jump in.
Thank you so much. Very excited.
Yeah, and this topic of AI and ChatGPT is blowing up everywhere. Mike, I want to start with you and jump into this because you're a Vistage Chair. Vistage is all over this. I know you are at the forefront of understanding AI and how it impacts your members. But tell us a bit about your Vistage practice and then how AI might be a part of that and issues coming up.
Thanks, Paul. And I'm very excited about having Ross here today, too, because I've got a host of questions for him when we get to that point. But starting, as you know, Vistage focuses on small to mid-size CEOs and their companies and how to help them both grow professionally, but also help them grow their businesses. And what's exciting about AI is that it's kind of has the bang of the internet coming, and we kind of see it coming. And it's something that we can't wait on the sidelines for, that we have to figure out how to get involved, how to understand it, how to understand the impact, and where best to use it. And I think that's what our members are struggling with. It's how do I get my foot wet without getting caught in a rip current and getting pulled out to sea? And we get afraid of things. And I think that back in our subconscious, there are visions of that. And I don't know if you saw that movie, I, Robot.
Oh, yeah.
Where the robots gain intelligence and start to take over and we're all afraid of that. And the goal is, how do we get to use AI in a good way and keep all those bad things from happening?
Yeah, no, love it, Mike. And Mike, you obviously with Vistage, part of your process is you're meeting every month with your leaders. And is AI coming up in those discussions, and in your one-to-ones, is it coming up too?
Oh, absolutely, as we go through that. Well, think about it. One of the challenges in today's economy is the labor shortage. And from everything I read, that's not going away. AI has the possibility of helping address that. It has the ability to help address the labor shortage, improve service levels and consistency, and help us grow our business with the limited resources. And I think that's one of the really key benefits of AI, if we can figure out how to use it right in the appropriate ways.
What industries, Mike, are you working with when it comes to your members in your group there?
Across the board, everything from construction, real estate development, telecommunications, software and technology, publishing, manufacturing, and especially precision manufacturing within that, biotechnology. So it's really across the board. And AI has applications in all of those industries and in all the different functions of our businesses, as well as personally we can use it.
Yeah, no, I know that's going to be helpful to Ross as we get into the industries. And then Mike, one of the last questions I have is just as a focus on your group, you have some open seats for your group? I know you have a very dynamic group. We've talked obviously a lot about your group, but do you have open seats there?
For the right people, we definitely do. And the key to Vistage, there's a mutual fit between the person and the group, and always happy to talk to more folks to see if they're a good fit.
Yeah, no, great. So Ross, let's get into this. You learn a little bit about Mike's group here in the industries. Tell us overview of AI. What should we be thinking about here?
Yeah, well, first I want to say Mike needs to be my co-presenter here. He's ready. He's good at this.
You're hired.
I think you made a great point about the labor shortage. I think AI is one potential way to improve your labor efficiency, essentially. And when I speak to a lot of companies, they're not necessarily looking to get rid of headcount. What they're looking to do is being able to do more with what they have, essentially. I think there is that kind of shortage right now. I was working with an accounting firm and they were saying, nobody wants to become an accountant anymore, So if we can have the AI fit into these various parts of our workflows and ease the work that people are doing, it's powerful. And then the other thing on top of that is that when AI frees up people to not need to do repetitive tasks or menial data tasks, they're freed up to be more strategic, to think more big picture, to be more creative. So that's where I think AI is fitting into companies. It's there's so many different opportunities because it also makes for a better customer experience as well. I mean, when you can have customer support, let's say, led by an AI, it makes it so that you can get responses immediately. And it's not like old technology where you had to go through the kind of tree and you had to say billing 17 times and try to get to a representative. It can actually understand you. It can actually think intelligently, and it can handle most requests that humans can.
Nice, nice. Mike, you want to, I know you have some questions. You want to start getting into some of that with Ross?
Oh, I'd love to, Paul. Thank you. Yeah. Let's see, from the top, we talk about AI and integrating that into our culture. First of all, Paul or Ross, from your standpoint, why should we do that? And what are the first steps to do that?
So it's a really good question. I think what you were saying previously is like, okay, so I've done a number of talks throughout the Vistage community. I'm very grateful and fortunate. And most everybody is incredibly excited. There are a few people who say, I don't want to do this, right? I hate this. I don't think this is a good idea. Now, regardless of how they feel, the groups tend to come to this consensus. Unfortunately, it's here. AI is kind of the genie out of the bottle, and there's no putting it back in. And so it is already being integrated into our society and our culture. I don't know if you, a student right now, anybody in the education system, it is completely upending education to the point where schools are going to have to reassess, how do we measure growth? How do we measure intelligence? It's not enough to just say, can you write an essay? Because AI can do that. So we're going to have to integrate it because it's already coming into our society in both work and in personal life as well. It can help us do things like create grocery lists and create itineraries for vacations and workout plans and video games. And that's wild. But how do we actually go about that? I think on a personal level, it's important to understand a bit of prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is the term for how do you speak to the AI, essentially. So you can go to a website called learnprompting.org. They've got a pretty good introduction for how you can learn prompt engineering and how to get the best output out of AI based on your input.
Ross, you touched on a couple things there. And one is that, when we talk about integrating AI into our businesses, we think about what it can do, but that's also where the big risk is. And I think that's what creates some of the fear in terms of, but if we can get comfortable with a tool in another format. Now, you touched on personally, you mentioned kind of grocery lists. A friend of mine talked about meal plans. Yeah. And I actually had it plan out 5 days worth of meals when I said, I like to grill shrimp, chicken, steak, give me 5 meal plans. And it did. Yeah. And for my wife and I, that worked out really well, especially with this heat we're having here in Connecticut. It can plan day trips, summarize books. What other ways can you get into it personally to kind of get comfortable with it, to learn both what it can do, but also some of the limitations?
Yeah. So on the personal level, like you were saying, a lot of possibilities in food. Sometimes you can just put in a recipe that you've got, maybe a family recipe or something, and be like, make this 30% tastier. What can we do with this, right? Or give me slight variations on this, or let's combine two and see what we can do. It's a really good variation machine. Something I was doing, my niece is 1.5 years, and she wanted a little story. So we had ChatGPT write her a story about, it was something like, Robert the Raccoon or something like that. And then I went to Midjourney and I took the story and put it in there, and it created a storybook for her, essentially, with images and illustrations. And then we turned that into a coloring book as well. So there's so much possibility on a personal level to just get excited about it that are practical things, but that are fun and will increase your understanding and ease of using AI.
Wow, 2 big things come up with that. One, I've got to go and ask it to come up with a recipe that is healthy but doesn't have any vegetables in it, because that would really fit my lifestyle. Beautiful. And second, can you imagine being a 10-year-old and saying, Chat, AI, I didn't do my homework last night. What should I tell the teacher?
I mean, and this is the thing. We're entering the new semester here, the new school year. This is going to be the first full year where students have access to AI, and they're now more comfortable with it than they, were when it first came out. They're always at the forefront of understanding what the technology can do, right? They're always pushing it to the edges. So it's a great point. They can write essays and answer questions and come up with creative maybe excuses or reasoning. So it's a new world.
Now, Ross, you've got some interesting background yourself. As I understand it, right, you came from a Dale Carnegie background into AI. And that begs the question, kind of what is your why? And what is the why for your AI business? What's your purpose?
Really good question. I love that. So what we're doing, so I'm the founder of Kingo AI, and what we do is essentially give companies AI brains. And the concept there is, what if your company could unlock all of its data? I mean, we've been gathering data for decades, right? But it's kind of been locked away in data stores and data lakes to where you need a data scientist team, or you need a machine learning team to try to extract information. Well, now with AI and these natural language models, we can extract information that we couldn't get to previously. And so our goal is to create this AI brain that unlocks your data, and then also helps you with autonomous workflows, essentially. So imagine that you could automate a lot of the menial tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis. We get an email in, we want to know which customer it's from, we want to send it to this inbox, and then have it fill out this spreadsheet. All of that can be done with AI.
Okay. Now, when you're talking to AI, so to speak, you have referenced how important it is to have the right type of prompts. Any quick guidelines as to what makes a good prompt, what makes a bad prompt, things to definitely do or things to definitely stay away from?
Great question. Yeah. So specificity and context, I would say, are the number one things you want to think of when you're giving a prompt. So first thing you want to do, though, is you want to instruct the AI. So what's the fundamental question you have or instruction you have for the AI? But as part of that, remember that every new conversation with ChatGPT, for instance, it's like you completely wiped its memory. So it has no idea who you are, what you do, what you've done for this task. And so you need to give it all of that context. And the more context you provide, the better it'll be. And just like human creativity, where the more constraints you apply to something, paradoxically, we actually tend to be more creative the more constraints we're under. It is similar with AI. So tell it, I want you to write this in 200 words, or you need to include emojis, or whatever it is. Be specific with the AI, give your constraints, give your context, give your task. And then one other cool trick you can do is to tell it to take on a role. So for instance, if I were to ask a data scientist to help me solve my problem, I would get an entirely different answer than if I were to ask an organizational psychologist. And so when I ask those two professions or those two roles, I get different answers. I can do the same thing for AI. I can say, just pretend that you're a data scientist and help me out with this problem, right? So you can have it put on a role. And that's all important, valuable, but the number one thing I would say is just treat it like a human, which is kind of weird to think, but just speak to it like a human. Say, I like this, I don't like this, I want you to expand on this, here's some background on this. And then the final point is, you'll tend to get the gold about 5 or 6 questions into the conversation. Don't expect your perfect answer on the first response. You'll need to go a little bit deeper with the AI.
Hey, wow. How do you go deeper? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So just basically asking follow-up questions. So what I do in my talks with Vistage groups, for instance, is we have a little problem solving workshop. And I ask somebody, okay, who's got a problem, right? And we've all got problems every day. And so somebody volunteers, and maybe we need more engaged employees. So the first thing we say is we get a little bit of background on the industry that the members in, and then we say, we need more engaged employees. Can you help us out? Okay. So it gives roughly the equivalent of like a blog post on the top 10 ways to give you more engaged employees. Helpful, but maybe things that we've already thought of. But there's one in there that goes into, let's say, incentive programs, right? And then we can say, okay, well, let's dive into that a little bit. Can you give me some more detail on incentive programs? Let's be creative. What could we come up with? And then it gives you 10. And you say, wait, you know what? This is great, but I've kind of already thought about these. Can we think more unconventionally or more creative? Can you give me 50 ideas for incentives? And then it'll just keep going, right? That's where you get the value.
So, Mike, I saw you taking notes because with all your companies you're working with, the whole incentive program, they're all trying to figure out how to incentivize employees.
Well, that and Ross what hit the big aha, the light bulb while I was taking notes is the idea that I'm looking at having one of the members literally get on their laptop during our group discussion sessions. And as we come up with different questions, we ask different members, but let's make sure we ask ChatGPT for what one of the answers is and get that back and have that enrich the group discussion as we go through this.
Yeah, I've spoken with a number of chairs now that are considering ChatGPT for issue processing. Just like you said, having it in the room, getting a different perspective. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Incredible. Yeah. Well, Ross, one of my last questions is, what would you advise like the businesses that Mike's working with if they're trying to figure out how Chat GPT works and how to implement it? What's the first step in all of that?
It's a really good question. The first step is to get personally excited about it, because I know some chairs some members, they think the idea is cool, but maybe they've just made a song with it or a poem, and they're not really entirely sure what you can do. I think it's really important to just first get excited about it yourself, and that will tend to expand, right, and bleed out into your leadership team. You want to get the leadership team excited secondarily, and then you really want to just show the opportunity, right? So with your workforce, for instance, you want to show that it can help with the things that they don't want to do. A lot of people are wary of AI because they don't want it to replace the things that they love doing, right? But what you can do is you can say, AI is here to take away those roles or those tasks that you hate doing. And that is the key. And that's how we can kind of work together to figure out how we can implement it. Yeah. So think about those things, get excited about it yourself, get your leadership team buy-in, learn some prompt engineering. One of the other things I recommend is to have somebody take on the role of AI officer. It doesn't need to be their entire role, but it's just somebody who's going to champion AI in your organization. And the reason for that,
great point,
is that it is such an important thing for your long-term success. But sometimes it doesn't feel hair on fire urgent, right? And throughout the day, you're going to have a whole bunch of urgent things come up and things on fire that you have to fix. But somebody needs to make sure that AI is moving forward in the background, and because it is important for your long-term competitive advantage. So I would also say that. And then there's a bunch of small things I give to members in kind of a checklist as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And and that was just all AI in general. And how it applies to businesses. And Ross, you go in, if someone wants to learn more about what you're doing, I mean, you sort of have a discovery session with businesses. They get on with you and you say, okay, I know you're all ears. You're listening to what they have going on. That session is, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm happy to meet with anyone, and we do a little session where I basically learn a little bit about your business, and we kind of have this back and forth conversation. We're talking about where could we apply AI to your existing operations, or where could it unlock new revenue? Where could it be applied for any problem that you're having on a day-to-day basis? But the AI can help with workflow automation. It can help with data discovery. It can help with sort of serving as a co-pilot for employees and just improving efficiency on a day-to-day basis. And so then I recommend a few tools for you that you might be able to use based on your particular scenario and circumstance. And it is kind of just a brain dump where I kind of help you out and explore how AI can help you.
Wonderful. Love it. I know we could talk forever about this topic, and I know, Mike, you have a passion about it. And I want to tell everybody that's watching this, we stream this everywhere, LinkedIn, YouTube. It might be on Facebook. So wherever you're watching it, get connected to these two people here. Their contact information is up here. Maybe it's down below. And great people to be connected. A lot of information flowing from both of them. I want to thank both of you for being here, and let's continue to have this discussion. Love to have you back.
Great, exciting times, Paul. Thank you. And Ross, great meeting you. And I can't wait for 5 years from now when we see what the world looks like.
I know, me too. Thank you so much, Mike. Your enthusiasm is contagious. And thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. Bye for now.